My name is Martina, and I am a second-year neuroscience student. My research project was supervised by Dr. Deborah Dewey, and I investigated the association between maternal physical activity during pregnancy and children's cognitive outcomes at 3 to 4 years of age. The Canadian Guidelines for Physical Activity During Pregnancy in 2019 recommended physical activity for all women with healthy and uncomplicated pregnancies. However, physical activity is a prenatal exposure that may affect children, but it is not well understood and is currently being explored. Animal studies have found that maternal exercise during pregnancy was associated with increased hippocampal neurogenesis, as well as improved learning and memory in the offspring. In human studies, prenatal maternal physical activity was found to potentially be associated with neurodevelopmental outcomes in children. Therefore, my project aimed to investigate the association between maternal physical activity during pregnancy and children's intelligence, language, memory, and executive function. My project also aimed to examine if maternal physical activity at different trimesters during pregnancy was associated with these cognitive outcomes. As part of the Alberta Pregnancy Outcomes and Nutrition, or APRN study, my project collected data from 357 mother-child pairs who were enrolled in the study. Physical activity was self-reported at one time point during each trimester by the maternal participants. At 3 to 4 years of age, their children's cognitive outcomes were assessed. Maternal participants self-reported the duration and the intensity of their weekly physical activity using two different questionnaires: the Godin-Shepherd Leisure Time Physical Activity Questionnaire, as well as the Back Physical Activity Questionnaire. And these two measures were found to be positively correlated and were therefore used in separate models. At 3 to 4 years of age, children's cognitive outcomes were assessed using the Wechsler Preschool and Primary Scale of Intelligence, or the WIPSI, to measure intelligence and cognitive outcomes. The Developmental Neuropsychological Assessment, or the NEPSI, to measure language and memory. And finally, the Behavior Rating Inventory of Executive Function, or the BRIEF-P, to measure executive function outcomes. In our analysis, we included covariates such as maternal ethnicity, education, and pre-pregnancy BMI, as well as child birth weight and sex. And associations among these covariates were examined using Pearson and Spearman's row correlations. Linear regression analyses were then used to predict children's cognitive outcomes. In our univariate regression, higher levels of physical activity in the first trimester of pregnancy were associated with higher full-scale IQ, verbal comprehension, and visual spatial index scores, indicating better performance. Higher levels of physical activity were also associated with lower scores on the BRIEF-P subtests, indicating better executive function. Conversely, higher levels of physical activity during the third trimester of pregnancy were associated with lower scores on the full-scale IQ and fluid reasoning index, indicating poor performance. When covariates were included in the models, the only association that remained significant was between physical activity scores at the third trimester and the WIPSI fluid reasoning index scores. All other associations were found to be insignificant. Previous research has also reported no associations between maternal physical activity and children's IQ, as well as children's vocabulary scores at the age of 3 to 4. However, our finding of this negative association between maternal physical activity during the third trimester of pregnancy and children's fluid reasoning skills supports the need for future research. With that, I would like to thank my supervisor, Dr. Dewey, for her mentorship and guidance, as well as the APRN study team. I would also like to thank the Hotchkiss Brain Institute for their funding, which made this research project possible. Thank you.